Okay, so I'm not there to go over this in person, but I do still want to go over the first 10 problems with everybody. Now, for the rest of this packet, again, it's still going to be due on Monday. So originally, if you look at the board, I had numbers 1 through 10 due today, and then numbers 11 through 20 due Monday. So I will check off all 20 questions on Monday. So make sure if you don't have this part done, you at least follow along with the review that we're doing right now, and you get the first 10 done, and then make sure with any of the time left in class or over the weekend, you get the other 10 done for 11 through 20, and I'll check it off on Monday. All right, first, number one, they are giving you two lines, and they gave us some measurements for here. They want to know what X would be whenever these two lines are parallel. So again, we're treating these two lines as parallel. We have two acute angles here and here, two acute angles here and here. When we have parallel lines, we know that those four acute angles are all congruent, and we know that all four of the obtuse angles are congruent. Any combination of one of the acute angles and one of the obtuse angles is going to be 180 degrees supplementary. So here we have an acute angle, here we have an obtuse angle. So those two have to be supplementary. So they're not congruent. You have to set them equal to 180. So we're combining these two equations together and saying it equal to 180. So we'll have 4x plus 14 plus 8x plus 10 equals 180. Combine like terms, 4x and 8x gives us 12x. 14 and 10 gives us 24. And then we have to solve. So subtract the 24. That leaves us with 12x equals 156. Divide off 12, and x is 13. Now remember, this is the calculator portion. So some of these numbers are a little bit bigger than what we had on the first half of the review, the other review packet. These, again, since they're bigger numbers, you will have a calculator. Now, even if you don't have a calculator that you bring with you to the exam, there will be a calculator on the computer. At least that's what they've told us. So hopefully you'll be able to pull that up on the computer. And it's the same calculator that if you use the calculator from the last test that we had in class, it'll be that same calculator. So now, again, the correct answer here was 13, which was option 3. Let's go over to number 2. Number 2, it gives us a lot of information here. Most of it is labeled on the figure. The only thing that's not is the fact that we have an isosceles triangle. So these two sides are congruent, which makes this side 10. Now, they do have you using Pythagorean theorem in this problem. So I'm not sure if they're actually going to make you do a problem like this on the test. I know we did a few things with Pythagorean theorem. I've given you questions with it. I introduced it the first time back when we did distance formula, but I would be surprised if they make you use Pythagorean theorem on the exam for when that counts for points, because that's still yet to come. Pythagorean theorem is another section that's coming up. But again, in case you don't remember what Pythagorean theorem was, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Again, you could write it as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Most of the time in geometry, we'll write it this way, and I'll explain that more later on in the year. Now, how are we using that to find this? Well, they gave us this length was 24, this entire length was 40. So the first thing we have to do is take the 40, subtract off the 24, which gives us a total of 16. So that's what's left between these two pieces. Well, those two are going to be the same length, so we're going to split in half, and each one of these is going to be 8. Now, this is where Pythagorean theorem comes in. We have a right triangle right here. We are solving for LF. That's the missing side of this right triangle. So 10 is my hypotenuse, so 10 squared equals 8 squared plus b squared. So b will be representing segment LF. Now, if you square 10, you get 100. You square 8, you get 64. And subtract 64 from 100 and you get 36. So 36 is equal to b squared. You have to get rid of the square by taking the square root. So b is 6, which that means that LF is 6. All right. Number 3, we have a diagram. They tell us that we have a triangle where these two sides are congruent. So I'm going to mark them as such. And if this is an isosceles triangle, then these two base angles would also be congruent, which means that this one is also x plus 20. All three of these angles have to add up to 180. So we're going to write an equation that's adding all of them up and saying them equal to 180. So combine all the x values. So I have 3x plus an x from each of these. Then I have a 20 from each of these. So I already switched the order up so that I have all the like terms next to each other. Combine like terms. That's 5x plus 40 equals 180. Then subtract off 40 from both sides to solve. 5x equals 140. Divide 5 off from both sides. And x is equal to 28, which is option 2. All right. Number 4. So again, they are saying that we want to prove that these two lines are parallel. In order to do that, we want to know what x would have to be. Well, these two are in two corners that are for acute angles. So those two should be congruent to each other. Specifically, these are alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are congruent when the lines are parallel. So we're going to set those two equations equal. 6x plus 42 equals 18x minus 12. Combine like terms. I'm going to go ahead and bring 6x over this way. So I get 42 equals 12x minus 12. Bring this 12 over the other way. So add 12. That gives us 54 equals 12x. Finally, divide off 12. This one doesn't come out to a whole number. It's going to come out to 4.5, which is option 2. Scoot that over. Apparently went off the screen a little bit. There. All right. On number 5, what is the length of the line segment whose endpoints are, and they gave us both points. Well, we have a formula for this. This was distance formula. D equals the square root of parentheses x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now, plugging those values in, x2 would be 7. Then we have -1. The y's, we have 4 and 9. This is going to give us positive 8 squared. This is going to give us -5 squared. 8 squared is 64. 5 squared is 25. Add those two up and you get 89. And that's our answer. It's a multiple choice question. The square root of 89 is there. So that's it. Number 6. What is the equation of the line that passes through that point and is parallel to the line represented by this? Well, first off, this is in slope intercept form, which again is y equals mx plus b. M being our slope, and if we want it parallel, that means it has to be the same slope. So right away, if that's 2, these two are out because those are opposite reciprocals. Right, they're flipped and the sign is changed. That'd be for a perpendicular line. These two are going to be parallel. Now, which one goes through that point? Well, the easiest thing to do next, since we have 2 options, plug the point in and see which one works. So I'm just going to plug it into the first one. So again, this is my equation that I'm plugging into right now. I'm going to plug those 2 values in. -1 equals 2 times 2 minus 5. -1 equals 4 minus 5, which does give us a true statement. So 3 is our answer. If we had plugged it into this one, we would have got false statement because we still would have had -1 over here. But then this would have been 2 times 2, which is 4, minus 1, which is 3. And 3 doesn't equal -1. So 4 doesn't work. All right. So on this one, they tell us that this is a centroid. We have a property that said the centroid is 2/3 the distance from a vertex to the opposite midpoint. So remember, this is 2/3 of the overall piece. This is 1/3 of the overall piece for the medians. So if we know that this entire thing is 18, then this is 1/3 of that, which is 6. This is double that, 2/3, which is 12. Together, that equals 18. They wanted BP, which is this piece here. So that is 12. On number 8, the diagram below says there's a rotation of 90 degrees clockwise. And I can demonstrate that by connecting these 2 points that go together. So it is a 90-degree rotation clockwise. Now, all they actually ask us to do is solve for x. Well, first thing we have to do is label which parts are congruent, because we don't have a congruency statement up here. So it's going to be easiest if we mark all the parts that we know should be congruent. So those two go with each other, these two go with each other, and these two go with each other. Well, if we are looking for the value of x, x is on this side. So I'm going to set it equal to the value that's over here, which was 16. So 2x minus 1 equals 16. Add 1 to both sides. 2x equals 17. Divide by 2. And x is 8.5. Option 4. All right. Number 9, again, dealing with our parallel lines. So in order to have those parallel, let's shoot this up. In order for these two lines to be parallel, these two angles here are what we call same side interior angles or consecutive interior angles, and consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So add the two together. We had 7x minus 36 plus 5x plus 12 equals 180. Combine like terms. 7x and 5x gives us 12x. Negative 36 and 12 gives us negative 24. So I still have 180. Add 24 to both sides. So that's 12x equals 204. Finally, divide both sides by 12. And x is, I gotta do that one in the calculator. That one's 17. So that's option 1. Like I said, this is a calculator portion, so you might have some bigger numbers. This one's kind of hard to do in my head. So again, I use a calculator on that one. Now, not every problem is going to require a calculator on the calculator section. Same thing goes for the FSA at the end of the year. All right, for number 10, this one, they give us a mid segment of a trapezoid. They tell us what these different pieces are as algebraic expressions. They don't give us any actual whole numbers to use. So we just have to use the idea that these two segments, when averaged, will give us the length of that mid segment. So we're going to combine those two equations together. So we had the x plus 3 plus the 5x minus 9. And then we're dividing it by 2 because that's how you do an average. You add them together, divide by 2, and it should equal that middle equation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this fraction by multiplying 2 to the other side. So times 2 times 2. And again, that's going to the whole thing. Here it cancels off. On this side, I have 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 2 is 4. On top, combine like terms. X and 5x is 6x. 3 and -9 is -6. Now we got to get like terms to the same side of the equation. So subtract 4x. That gives us 2x minus 6 equals 4. Add 6 to both sides. That's now 2x is equal to 10. Finally, divide by 2 and x is 5. Just option 1. Now, another way you could go about doing this, since it's multiple choice, if that was too much work, take a number, plug it in. The way that you know it works is the number that's in the middle would have to be the average of these two. So let's try plugging in 5 just to see what that looks like. I had plugged in 5 up here, that would have been 8. I had plugged in 5 down here, that'd be 25 minus 9 is 16. On this one, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Does it work? Well, in order to check it, we gotta see that the difference is the same between each of these. So this is a difference of 4, and this is a difference of 4. So it works. That's just another way you could do it since it's multiple choice. That was number 10. So that's all I'm going over today. You need to finish the rest of the packet and make sure you have it when I check it off on Monday. All right. Have a good weekend.